I'm Jamie Seeker, and this is What It Takes. Each episode, I sit down with real business owners to talk about their journey, the wins, the challenges, and everything in between. Let's dive in. Welcome to What It Takes. We are the podcast where we explore the stories of business owners who've built incredible brands from the ground up. So I'm your host, Jamie Seeker, and today we're thrilled to have Anne Shadle with us. Anne is the co-owner of the Mayan Cafe, a Louisville institution celebrated for its sustainable practices, innovative cuisine, and deep ties to the community. She and Chef Bruce launched the restaurant in 2007, and together they've expanded their vision with catering services and a food truck concept called Mayan Street Food. But Anne's journey doesn't stop there. She's also a business coach and the founder of two additional ventures, Left Brain Solutions, an operations consulting company, and am I saying this right, Anne? Lupine or Lupine?
Lupine.
Lupine Floral Design, a boutique floral business. So in this episode, Anne will share the story behind the Mayan Cafe, her approach to leadership and sustainability, and how she balances running multiple businesses while staying true to her vision. So let's get started. Hi, Anne. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Jamie. I'm excited to be here.
So let's just start from the beginning of Mayan Cafe. What inspired you and Chef Bruce to launch the Mayan Cafe back in 2007, was it?
Yeah, so our 18th anniversary is next Saturday, actually, on January 18th. So Bruce is a Mayan Indian from the Yucatan Peninsula. So it was the food that he ate growing up that he wanted to bring to Louisville. And at the time, it was kind of by accident for me. He was dating my sister, and I was in between jobs and thought it would be a temporary thing. And 18 years later, like clearly was meant to be in the restaurant business. So it's been a dynamic partnership, honestly.
That's awesome. And what were some of the biggest challenges that you faced in those early days? Like, how did you overcome some of those things?
Right. I mean, at the beginning, you're just like, you have to be an expert in so many different things so quickly. And so that was my biggest challenge, was learning how to do HR, marketing, operating a restaurant, running a wine program. I barely knew how to open a bottle of wine. I mean, I was like a child when I was doing all of this stuff. Fortunately, Bruce had been cooking in other restaurants and had had a previous concept. So he was really good at making all the food and managing food costs. So it gave me a little bit of grace to kind of figure out some of my stuff. So that's part of why I feel like I need to share all my secrets with as many people as I can, is because I feel like I was given this gift at the beginning to learn a little bit more slowly. But it definitely was challenging because, there's no guidebook for this stuff. Everybody's always like, how was I supposed to know this? Like, the Department of Labor comes in, I was paying overtime wrong, just stuff that you don't know until you get, you know, kind of caught with your tail between your legs, and you just have to figure it out and make it right.
Yeah. So, what were some of the things that you did to figure those things out?
I mean, I really appreciated having accountants in particular who were willing to answer my questions. I learned from as many of my vendors as I could. So even wine reps, like I would choose wine reps who weren't stuffy and weren't condescending and were happy to answer my what felt like basic questions. But my different CPAs over the years have been huge resources, and just how do I understand this? What's the metric I'm looking for? And then about 5 years in, I got a business coach myself through like the Small Business Development Center, is a free coaching service for small businesses around the country. And so he was super helpful in giving me different spreadsheets, helping me with budgeting. So yeah, just like not being afraid to ask questions is really an important piece of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Surrounding yourself with people who know more than you, who are specialists in their area. The SBDC is a huge resource. I was very involved with that. That's the reason why I think Seeker Solution is here today, which is my company. But they have invaluable resources and really help with that. So that's really great advice. What you have, I'm going to pivot a little bit to sustainability because I know that that's kind of at the heart of your restaurant's mission. So, how did you decide to make this a core value? You're trying to figure out how to, like you said, open a wine bottle, but you've really tried to, stick to this mission and keep that on the forefront. How do you do all of that when you're really just trying to figure things out day to day as well?
hmm I mean, there was like a sort of a tipping point for us, or I guess like a flash point where we were talking, my business partner, then my sister, his wife, were talking about what to do about Mondays because they were really slow the first year and a half. And so my sister said, she said, well, what if we, this sort of farm to table movement, this was 2008 when we were having this conversation. It was the very sort of early stages. I mean, obviously Alice Waters had been around for years, but it was early stages in Louisville for that kind of thing. And she said, what if we go to do something with farms on Mondays and do some kind of special? And then Bruce, my partner, was like, well, I could go to the market on Saturday and we can pick different farmers and kind of rotate through them. And then I said, we can call them Mayan Market Mondays. And so that was kind of what got us into it, where for that summer of 2008, it was like each Monday was a different farm and we would buy everything they had and make different specials and they would come in for the dinners. And so that was what really got us with having more personal relationships with the farmers because they were physically in the space and we were talking to them. We were learning about the seasonality of things, the ordering systems of how to order more versus like ordering from every day, like what you need for tomorrow, you order like once a week when you're ordering from farmers. So it really taught us a lot of things just kind of by accident. It was meant to be a marketing thing. But then later on that summer, Bruce watched Food Inc. had just come out, and he didn't realize how far the US food system had shifted from the way he grew up eating food, which was at his mom's house. They had a lime tree and a lemon tree and squash growing outside and a couple chickens, and they just ate the food that they had growing outside and they ate seasonally. And so he, really opened his eyes to kind of how things worked. And so it was all of that combined. By the end of that year, we said, okay, all of the meat we source is going to come from local farms. The produce will come seasonally when it's available. Obviously, that's kind of a moving target, but and so that was really kind of what got us into it. And it's been a core value ever since.
That's wonderful. And I think you kind of alluded to this, the growth and how you continued to kind of tap into your community, but you've grown Mayan Cafe beyond the restaurant. And so we're talking catering, food truck. What inspired those expansions?
Mhm. The food truck, I sort of had this thing where because when we opened my cafe, I was like helping my brother-in-law, but it was his idea, not my idea. And so at that point, for like 5 years, I would say I'm not really an entrepreneur unless I start something where I'm like, sort of in a different role at the very beginning. And so that was kind of the urge that I felt to start my street food. And so the owner of the brewery where we partnered had come to us, I guess it was like 2000, late 2016, early 2017. And he was extremely persistent because he was opening this brewery and he wanted a permanent food truck there. So the partnership seemed like it would have like a pretty good chance of success. So that was kind of how we got into that one. In catering, honestly, we've been catering since the beginning. The first event we catered was my sister and Bruce's wedding in 2008.
What?
He literally, before he went to the church, Bruce went to the restaurant. He cooked salmon and pork and pasta,
What?
lima beans for 200 people or whatever it was. Went to the church, and then I was the maid of honor. I was the head of catering team. I had managed the bar. I was the DJ. We were on a budget back then, so we just did everything ourselves. And then a bunch of bourbon distilleries started opening in downtown Louisville in like 2016, 2017. And so all of those places had their own events room. And so kind of one by one, we got asked to be on their caterers list. And so that was a real turning point for us in 2017, where we sort of had been making like 150,000 a year in catering sales for the, several years prior to that. And then we like doubled it that next year. And then we doubled it again the following year, and then like did another, big jump in like these last couple years. So it's now where it's like its own department, and I've got 6 different people who plan the events, execute the events, cook the food. So yeah, it now took off when all the venues and stuff, we were able to get on the preferred caterers list of these different venues. Then they just pushed us, which has been amazing.
That's great. And you make it sound so simple and easy, like, oh yes, and then this led to this and this led to that. But what challenges came with scaling the business like that? How did you ensure like quality, consistency, and all that kind of stuff when you're serving all these different venues?
I mean, that it was challenging in that we had never increased sales that quickly. right? Like that much that quickly. Because normally we would grow sales like 5 to 7% from one year to the next, but to have a $200,000 jump in sales from one year and then the next year as well, that was a lot. So there was like this one woman who'd worked for us for years. She was brilliant. And she had gone on maternity leave and she said, when I come back, I don't want to manage the front of the house anymore. I want to do something else. And I was like, I'll figure something out. And so I was like, you can plan events with me. At that point, we didn't need somebody to plan events, but it was this thing that like, by the time she came back, that was when stuff started to take off. And if I hadn't had her trained and ready to go, I would have died because it was so much so fast. So I would ask her, I would say, okay, Claire, if you feel like you're going to die 3 weeks in a row, then I'll hire somebody to do some of your work. Like that was her metric. I said, if you want to die 1 week, but then you don't the next week, then we won't hire somebody. But if you want to do it 3 weeks in a row, then we'll hire somebody.
Oh my gosh.
Which is a horrible metric to make somebody fat, you know?
I was gonna say, oh man, that's so funny. But yeah, no, that's great. But you've worn so many hats over the years. So you talked about managing operations, HR, marketing, finances. How do you approach leadership on top of, having your hands in all of these different areas as well?
I mean, it's an interesting thing. So my dad was a professor of organizational leadership in like at the college level. And so it sort of was this like accidental thing that I was like living out this dream that he was teaching. Like I didn't realize that I was a leader until I would talk to him about stuff and he would kind of reflect it back to me. He's like, the style of management that you have is not management. Like it's leadership. This is a different thing. And it really, I mean, like I've read no leadership books ever, which I think is like upsetting to him because he like has given me lots of them and suggests them all the time. I mean, it just seems so simple, but like I had a horrible boss my first job in Louisville, and I was like, I'm just gonna do the opposite of everything I saw that person do. And like that's really it. I mean, every decision I make, I think like the employee and I think like the business owner, like everything, right? I also my sort of like secret HR goal is for everybody to give me a long notice when they leave. And so every interaction that I have with every employee every day, like for all the time, and this is like a real thing, has that goal in mind, which means that they need to feel respected by me. They need to feel that they appreciate the brand, that they respect what we're doing, so that for them to want to give us, I mean, my employees will give me an open-ended notice. They'll say, like maybe 3 months, but if you needed me to stay longer, I'll do whatever it takes, right? Like, which I mean, I've had like dishwashers do that. Like, this is not common in the industry where people just like up and leave in the middle of a shift, right? So it's like it really is something that it's like a daily embodiment. And it's not that I have to work at it. It's just like who I am as a person. It's just I just try to be nice to people.
You're saying this like it's this no big deal concept, but it's actually pretty deep. I think it's really funny that you didn't realize that you were a leader until somebody pointed it out to you. But I think that's one thing that is unique about people and entrepreneurs, that you kind of learn what your skill set is and what you're good at along the way. I don't think that's a unique journey for people that are in this seat, because we're trying new things every day. We're looking at, and some things we like fail at tremendously, right? And like you said, you're like, I had no idea I wasn't paying overtime, right? But there are some things that we just sometimes hit on, and that's kind of amazing that it turned into something that was natural, but it now sounds like you're very intentional about leading in a certain way, which I think is a unique trait that we don't always pick up on in the journey, is shifting it to something you're naturally good at to something that you're now intentional about and actively doing in your company, and you're seeing results from that as well. So that's really cool. But I kind of want to shift a little bit on that. In addition to the Mayan Cafe, you've launched a consulting business and a floral design company. What drives your passion to entrepreneurship like this?
Yeah, I mean it sort of ties back to that an initial gift I feel like that I was given is well, so during 2020, my business coach, my like old SBC business coach that I've been working with since 2011, um, asked if I wanted to join their team of business coaches, because I had mentioned him at different points over the years that that I would like to do what he does, or I was interested in consultant at some point in my future. And so they were hiring sort of quickly because there was like this massive need. And so I started working on his team and, saw what I liked and what I didn't like about coaching at that point, and realized, that really what I love to do was just to like do these operational deep dives where I sort of get into the nitty gritty of with people, as well as like understanding their finances. There's so many small business owners, I feel like, that are scared of the finances, that that's the one kind of blind spot they have. And so my goal is to help people sort of move towards them. So I just really was like, I just want to share all my secrets. The restaurant industry is so hard. The margins are so low, and so if I can have gone through something difficult, share it with somebody else in a way that they can really hear it and take it to heart, and then can prevent them from having to have some of the sort of painful lessons that I've had, then that hard time that I had was worth it, because I've used it to help somebody else is really what I feel like my passion is.
Yeah. Well, what do you have next because of all of these things? What's next for you, whether it's with the Mayan Cafe or any other exciting new projects or goals that you have on the horizon? What do you see for your future?
I mean, our thing with the restaurant, so we built like a covered patio behind the restaurant, just like in 2023, and opened it last year, to where we've essentially doubled the capacity of the business. So this whole past year was like this wild experiment in having a 100-seat restaurant versus a 50-seat restaurant, which is what we're used to doing. And so that's kind of been our big, like, okay, how do we do this? How do we have parties back there? How do we continue to grow it? Like, we have a bar back there, which we don't have a bar inside the restaurant that people can sit at. So that's been this really fun project and growth piece of things. So just kind of continuing to grow that and figure out how to do more with it. We're about to put sidewalls on it so that we have heaters in there already, so we can sort of use it almost 12 months out of the year. Maybe not right now when it's like 15 degrees outside and snowing, but so that's kind of our thing with the restaurant, and then always continuing to push the catering is really kind of our big thing, is that we're able to make money in two different like off the front door and out the back door at the same time, which is kind of what makes it all work. So that's our big thing there. And then with my other stuff is just continuing to connect with other clients. I've started to teach classes. The Small Business Development Center hired me back to teach like restaurant specific classes. So I've got like a whole batch of different, like, how to start a restaurant, how to start a food truck, how to add catering line of revenue to your business. So again, just trying to, reach more people and share some of the things that I've kind of, been able to figure out over the last 18 years.
Yeah, that's such a cool journey, and thank you so much for joining us today and sharing all that. Your story, it's such a nice, inspiring example of how like passion, innovation, and really commitment to sustainability can create a lasting impact in your community. But kind of, I mean, it sounds like you're really kind of branching out and beyond that too. So, to our listeners, if you're ever in Louisville, don't miss the chance to visit the Mayan Cafe for an incredible dining experience. And how can people find you if they're looking for you? Maybe if they're not in Louisville.
So our website is themayancafe.com. Got all kinds of good information on there. And then our Instagram is Mayan Cafe Nulu. So, we do different how-to videos on there, how to make different recipes, like kind of behind the scenes stuff with Bruce, with the chef. So those are and then Facebook, obviously. Those are kind of all of our social things. So yeah. And my email is on like the contact us page if anybody wanted to reach me directly.
Awesome. Yes. Thank you for sharing. So you got that. You can follow Anne's work and learn more about her ventures at themayancafe.com and on social media. So thank you so much for tuning in to What It Takes. Be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with a friend who loves inspiring business stories just like Anne's. So until next time, keep dreaming big and going after what it takes to succeed. Thank you. Would you or someone you know like to be featured on this podcast? Our applications are now open. Apply today at seekersolution.com and click on the podcast link to get started.